Can a conservative be an atheist?
I love this question. This is a great question. I love this question because I can give a controversial answer. My answer is twofold. Obviously, a conservative can be an atheist. There are many atheist conservatives. An atheist can be a good person. An atheist can be a more moral person than a religious person. An atheist can be a more conservative person than a religious person. I don't think you can actually be an atheist conservative and have your philosophy make sense down to the ground. Now, that is not as important as it seems. It's obviously, it's more important that you rescue the princess from the dragon than that you can explain why. But here's why I think that there is something spiritual at the bottom of conservatism. The essential component of conservatism is the individual. You cannot be a conservative, an American conservative, without believing in the importance, the sacredness of the freedom of the individual. And when you think about the individual, and when you think about the requirement that he be free, the fact that it is right that he be free, a lot of questions come up. Like, for instance, what is an individual and why should he be free? What makes it good that he is free? Why should people like Barack Obama, who know so much more than we do, who are so much wiser, who know much better how to invest our money, why shouldn't they force us to do what they want us to do? Why is our choice better? I mean, I hear a lot of conservatives trying to make the sort of practical case that I know better what to invest my money in than Barack Obama does, but that might not be true in every case, and yet I would insist that in every case it is right that I get to invest my money where I want, rather than Obama getting to invest my money where he wants. And the reason for that is because we come from a philosophy which is Christianity, or you can call it Judeo-Christianity. There is no country on earth that respects the individual and respects freedom of the individual that was not once a Christian country. The one possible exception would be Japan, which was refashioned in our image, forcibly refashioned in our image. Well, why is that? Why is that? It's because that sacredness of the individual comes from a philosophy. It comes from, you could put it in one sentence, that God created man in his image, which means that there is an ultimate good. There's something that is ultimately good, that can't be questioned, that goes beyond that toddler test, what I call the toddler test of why. At some point, when you reach God, you reach the ultimate good, and we are made in that image and can respond toward it and move toward that good. That's where our respect for the individual comes from. It comes from that sense. And if you don't believe in that, you can still believe in the individual, you can still believe in freedom, you can still believe in conservatism. I'm just not sure why you do. That's the only thing I would say.
I'll split a couple hairs with you here. Right. It's kind of an issue of how many Richard Dawkinses can dance on the head of a pin. I was an atheist for many years in my middle years, and I certainly don't have that kind of arrogance anymore. We talked earlier about humility, and it's amazing what humility will do to broaden your perspective about things that you think you know all about that are utterly beyond your comprehension, and always will be. But without question, one of the things I've come to realize is that your fundamental premise is 100% correct. That everything that we admire about this society that we love, about this vision of America, is predicated on Judeo-Christian values, and especially on the Christian idea that your conscience is an internal governor of your behavior, and if you have an internal source of virtue, you do not need a powerful state keeping you in line. The antithesis of Sharia is what we believe in. It's not a question of keeping the options off the table. You do whatever you want to. You should have an internal conscience, you should have an internal sense of morality and virtue, and that will govern your behavior, and good people can be left alone. You could make the case, however, that those values being baked into the society, which they are, produce a set of behaviors that are noble and admirable, and that an atheist can look at the source of these things and say, I don't believe that these people, but this business that the founders were all atheists is nonsense. It's utter nonsense. Yeah. So I'm not trying to make that case at all. But what you could say is, these people believed in a God, which I don't believe in. They created a set of morals and values, which I do believe in. I abide by those set of values. They came from a source that I don't particularly believe was divinely inspired. Nevertheless, they have an integrity and they work, and that's what I believe in. And that's how you can be an atheist and a conservative. There's no question about that. But I do think that when we come back to this issue of humility, there comes a point when you have to understand the limits of human perception. And as I get into that, I've seen a remarkable series on imagining the 10th dimension. And when you really start to get into the idea that in four-dimensional space there is no time, that the universe was created whole. It is always been there. It always has been there. Everything that has happened, always will happen. What we're seeing here in three-dimensional space are little cross-sections of four-dimensional worms of us that move through the dimension of time. Then higher dimensions beyond that, it gets a little dicey, I think, when you start talking about the limits of our perception in a little piece of protein the size of a cantaloupe. You know, for us to just automatically say, no, this is not possible.
Yeah.
That's where I kind of abandoned the atheist train quite a long time ago.
Well, yeah, and I think again, as I said from the start, I thoroughly believe that you can be an utterly good conservative and an atheist, and of course you can. What I'm saying, though, is if you think it through, if you really think what it is that you're saying about this individual, you are saying that this individual has you're saying there's something sacred about this individual. Yes. And it's not just a bunch of electrons bouncing around. It's not just a chicken and a chicken dinner aren't the same thing. You know, it actually is something that is greater than the sum of its parts. And when you think about that for a while, you don't have to come out with any kind of biblical Christianity. I mean, that's not what I'm saying at all. But you do start to think like there's something beyond this. Where does this idea of wrong come from? You know, what is right and what is wrong? Why can't it be right that I force you to do something? You know, I mean, you just think it's wrong.
Yeah.
And that's my problem with that kind of thinking. It doesn't ask the next why question. And I think that you do have to believe in an ultimate source of good, and it does have to have something to do, as you said, with conscience and the human heart.
Yeah, I'd rather live in a society that had a fundamental belief that the soul of a newborn baby girl will outlast the earth and is more important than everything on this rock. There's a quality to that kind of culture that gives me peace and a sense of security.
Yeah, I think it does for everybody. Yeah.
Rather than being one of the many masses who toil for the good of the eternal state. And
exactly.
You have now reached the peak of maximum efficiency. Here's your pain pills. Go die in peace.
Good job. Yeah.